All right.
Hello,
everyone.
And welcome to episode 15 of the Whiskey Podcast. I am your host, Nate Fu,
And I am ChewDada.
fellow co-host, ChewDada, and we're squeezing an extra one in here. If you've been watching the feed, you might notice episode 14 may or may not be missing. It may end up being lost to the archives of time.
Yeah. Although I have to say, it was probably one of our best episodes yet.
Of course it is. It still exists in the VOD, and if you go back and if you follow us on the Twitch channel, you can look at the VOD. You
for
can
30 days, and then it gets deleted.
Listen to it for yourself, and you'll understand why it might be completely lost forever. So what are we drinking this morning, Wook?
Oh, God, we are drinking some Irish coffee. We are drinking King's Coast espresso blend. I can't read that because of the coloration on it.
Countach, like the Lamborghini.
There we go.
Countach
espresso blend. King's Coast with a very healthy serving of Jameson. Because it's been one of those weeks. It's always one of those weeks, isn't it? But as you could tell, it's kind of gloomy outside. We in Southern California, I guess, have officially hit fall, which means that we're, in a nice temperature, not in the hundreds.
Well, that's this week. Who knows what next week will bring?
Right. It seems to vary. It likes it sometimes, it doesn't like it other times. I don't know. I just work here. Oh, yeah. So, since our last podcast last week, for those of you that are fortunate enough to discover the secret archives, since then, let's see. I've broken my toe. I've received first-degree burns from coffee. I've been getting migraines. And all of that's from the kids, I think. No, but seriously. A good chunk of it's from the kids.
Yeah, you say you broke your toe. I think it'd be more accurate to say that your toe was broken by my daughter.
Well, first it was me corralling my daughter and your youngest. And then your oldest, later on that night, thought it would be funny to repetitively hit my toe with a flashlight.
Bam, 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 bam.
And then she was very upset when I took it away from her. She didn't understand why.
We've definitely had a few here's your sign moments with my oldest lately where, she literally hauls off and hits me in the face and says, "We don't hit."
Mm-hmm.
Here's your sign.
Got to put it into practice, right?
Right.
Yeah, I apologize because I am still looking every single solitary time we're doing this recording and making sure that everything's working from a technology standpoint, which at the moment, knocking on painted wood, it seems to be.
Right.
And this might be our first time that's ever happened.
That's not true. We've actually had a few episodes that we've bagged that have been without technical difficulties. It hasn't been recently.
Right.
I think our last 3 or 4, pending this one, obviously, have been rife with some sort of egregious technical mishap.
We've got some of the sexiness up, as you can see. We're very nicely framed in the image here. We've got a nice black background around it. We've got our socials up top. And there is a YouTube channel. It's the Debuff Dad YouTube channel, but we don't have enough subscribers yet to get that custom URL yet, so I'm not going to bother trying to put the random string of numbers and letters up there for you. But if you want, go to debuffdad.com/links, and that'll be our link tree for everywhere you can find it.
There you go. At least, if we can't make it easy, at least we can find a place to get all those links put in.
And nothing's easy.
We
figured that out. So where are we? I believe this week your wife and youngest started the experiment of holding everyone to a schedule.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
With the assistance of technology, it's actually been working out very, very well, almost to a fault.
Oh.
Because, well...
Why don't you explain a little bit what you guys are doing?
So, just to manage time frames and whatnot, because both of our lives have been busy and hectic, my wife has decided to implement our Alexa and start setting notifications and reminders. That way, when I was home watching the kids, I would get reminded that it's potty break, that it's snack time, that it's nap time, so that we could start doing these on consistent basis. And this week, I actually switched back over to my regular schedule, off of nights to daytime. So...
You don't have to say it politely.
Well, so she was on her own, and it was kind of, how is this going to work out? They've just had the last 2 weeks of Daddy being home and Daddy holding them to these schedules, and, how are we going to do flying by the seat of our pants? And the Alexa goes off and says, reminder, potty break. To which we hear my oldest go, but Alexa, I just went potty. Thank you.
Well, it's like she talks to Dano when he's streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Dano yells balls, and she yells balls back at him.
But, so one of these breaks that she had, balls. One of the notifications that came up, Brooke knocks on the office door and says, Mommy, I need you. And she says, honey, I'm teaching for another half an hour. Okay, but how am I supposed to know when that is? And she says, well, just tell Alexa to set a timer. And she runs into the living room and goes, Alexa, set a timer for 30 minutes. And, of course, Alexa hears her. So she is now absurdly aware of how the technology works and how she can use it to her advantage. And it's
she
absolutely...
can use it against you guys.
Yeah, it's absolutely adorable and absolutely scary at the same time. So... Oh, man. And she's not even 4 years old yet. I am in so much trouble.
Oh, yeah. And your youngest is now starting to talk in complete sentences and very clearly, speaking her mind. And she is a master manipulator.
There is not enough Jameson in this coffee for that conversation right now.
Well, there was yesterday where apparently we're lucky to find out that she can no longer fit between the bars in our front gate. Because her head is now too big. We found that out, through trial and error, we'll say.
Yeah, by her sinking her head up to her ears.
Yeah.
In the wrought iron fence.
Yeah.
Or wrought iron gate.
To which case, it was our fault, by the way.
Of course.
Neither of us were there, but it was our fault. And then there's my kid, who's 8.5 months and stands up on her, by herself. Can't walk really. She still uses one hand to hold her balance, whatever. But just decided to stand up on herself, switched hands because she wanted to grab a toy.
But for whatever reason, she's still morally opposed to crawling because
she refuses to crawl. She helicopters. She can pivot incredibly well. But she just, for whatever reason, will not crawl. So Mama Bear and I have a bet going right now. What's going to happen first? Is she going to crawl first, or are her teeth going to cut first? And if her teeth cut first, Mama Bear is going to make banana bread. And if she crawls first, I've got to cook Mama Bear breakfast in bed.
So, banana bread it is, huh?
All right, that's my thought at this point. That's why I went with it. And I'm trying to look, Ewok. You and I both will like banana bread. Just do this for me, okay? She was teething something fierce today.
Oh, I remember those days, and I don't envy you. No,
Just chewing on everything.
Like I almost feel like, and you probably second me on this one. It's that she knows that becoming independent means that she no longer has an excuse to rely on mommy, and that's kind of a big thing with her these days.
Yeah. Though she switches back and forth.
Yeah.
We jokingly call her a Velcro baby because she needs to be in mommy's arms all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is like when she's in a good mood, she doesn't want anything to do with mommy. She wants Grammy. She wants me. She wants you. She wants anyone else there who's going to play and interact with her. And we've actually, over the last 2 weeks, we've taken, we've all gone to the pumpkin patch together.
Mm-hmm.
And then last week, Mama Bear, our little girl, and I went to the zoo and then back to the pumpkin patch to see a friend of ours. So she's gotten much more just time out, and she's loving it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily caring about where she is, just being out and experiencing new things.
I mean, that's kind of all of us these days.
Right.
Staring at the same four walls all the time has gotten old.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Very quickly. Oh. Cheers to that.
Mm-hmm. Here.
Clink.
Without running into any of our equipment here. Let me put that down.
We only have the highest of tech, guys. The highest of tech. What else? We're coming up on Halloween. Mama Bear and Lady Foo's cousin found a Ewok costume for free from like another parent. Unfortunately, it's for like a 2-year-old. So I've got another year or so until our Ewok can fit into her Ewok costume. But I'm excited for the years to come now. This will be mine. It will work. I swear it.
Well, and again, hopefully by the time that she fits into that costume, we can actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a weird Halloween this year. It goes without saying, we're in the middle of a pandemic and everyone's socially distancing. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's I think your wife was telling me she's got to go to the school on Wednesday to do a COVID inspection walkthrough of the facilities. But the general consensus at this point is this entire year is going to be remote.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean till, New Year's. I mean this entire school year through next summer is going to be remote because we're entering another major spike. Yesterday, I think we had the United States had their highest infection rate since the outbreak began.
It's absolutely absurd. Like, we
can't have nice things.
Yeah. And we can't get a handle on this thing. I don't know. It's been a topic of conversation for way too long. And, frankly, as much as we keep bringing it up, I'm a little tired of it.
No, I hear you.
So.
Unfortunately, everything now has become political. It has become the status quo. So the next steps are, what are we doing about it?
Right. Let's try to manage to keep everyone safe in the meantime, and
then figure out how to continue.
Right.
I know a lot of people are in the same boat as I am, where unemployment protections are starting to run out.
Mm-hmm.
So digging into those savings and figuring out how you get there. And then, entertainment industry ain't picking up anytime soon.
Right.
So we're looking at least until 2021 summer. I think that's when Broadway is anticipating opening again. And there's some television happening.
That was interesting. I guess that recently came out that they just shut down all of Broadway officially.
Yeah. Well, it's at this point, there's no even point in trying to pretend.
Yeah.
To make it happen, because even and this
I
is
think up until this point it was kind of we prefer if you don't do it, but
well, then the theme parks as well. Orlando's open, but Florida has the highest infection rate
Right.
in the United States currently, I think it is. And Disneyland, they're like, no, you got to set some limits, even though I think part of California Adventures is opening up, and people are picketing it. Like, are you seriously kidding me?
Right.
Like, why do you want to put yourself in that situation? And yes, I want to be able to go back to work. I want to be able to make all these things happen.
Yeah.
But
And
I have
there's
no
other
interest of
and there's other
sacrificing my life
people's
for it.
there's other people's jobs that are at stake there,
Yeah.
I guess Disneyland just reported over 40,000 job losses
Yeah.
related to the theme parks either scaling back
Operations,
or
yeah.
shutting down, right? And then of course Orange County's in a tizzy because all of the ancillary jobs that were tied to the tourism and the theme parks, all the restaurants that are local to it, all of the ride shares of
Yep.
people going in and out. It's just like,
And even from the tourism standpoint, though, it's like, even if you open these things up, Disneyland is majorly different than Disney World. Disneyland is mostly locals that go, and it's for the nostalgia of it.
Mhm.
Disney World is open, yes, but I think they're working at a fraction of their standard capacity. But Disney World, majority of the people that show up to Orlando are people that fly in or drive in.
Mhm.
Not doing that. Like, the airlines are suffering because no one wants to get on a plane.
right.
And, go back and forth with some of the science of it that, airplanes are safe because of the filtered air and blah, blah, blah. I don't know about that. But the public is just not doing it.
Right.
And so
They're taking their safety in their own hands, and congratulations for doing so.
Right. That is what it is. But just looking at it coming, moving forward again. No jobs offering. I think I've got 3 independent pitch projects that I'm working on right now, and if any of them turn on, there'll at least be some supplemental income. But we'll see what goes from there. And that's our behind-the-scenes table that Nate Fu was just moving. It's a very high-tech portable cooler that we don't have anything in, but we use it because it's the right height.
It just stays off scene. So.
Yeah. I know. So we're coming up to Halloween in a week from today.
Mhm.
And then we're in November.
Right.
So we've got Thanksgiving, we've got the holidays, we've got New Year's, all about to hit.
Yep.
And before all that, we've got the election, which, will be its own sort of holiday one way or another.
Right. I actually just saw your recent post of you dropping your ballot off in
I did.
The local box. Congratulations.
I did. I dropped it off, and I've got the tracking number, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not as worried about, my vote out here in California, but,
Right.
I think across the U.S., we've seen the highest turnout in early voting in history.
Right.
So hopefully that continues, not just for this election, but in general, because civic duty is all important. But talking politics and gaming, we actually saw AOC do a
And
Twitch
Ilhan
stream.
Omar. Yeah.
And Ilhan Omar, yeah, she ended up joining for part of it. Did a Among Us stream to get the vote out. And while highly criticized, she had 450,000 concurrent viewers on a Twitch stream, actively playing a game with some of the top influencer and content creators.
Yeah.
And while that's not the largest, it's amongst the largest streams ever in Twitch history. So I think that says something about,
especially for a premiere, right?
Right.
I
But
remember.
think that
I
says
remember
something.
lurking the chat, and everyone's like, "How do I sub? Why can't I sub?" And it's
Right.
like, she's never done this before.
Right? Like, she managed to talk to the right people to get a check mark to verify that, yes, it is actually AOC streaming. But, like, I think for the first time, politics, for lack of a better term, and the corporate world are realizing, oh, here's an entire audience and way to reach people that we never thought before.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if this trend continues.
I mean, and it's nice to see some youth in our
Mhm.
politics, right? That's
Well, it's reaching out to the generation. So
Yeah.
we're talking like the people on Twitch from a demographic standpoint, yeah, there's kids on there, but it's Gen X and it's millennials, and Gen Z that are typically on there at that point. And either they're just coming into their first or second vote, or they're about to be voting in a year or two. In some cases. So
yeah, this is the first election that people born after the year 2000 can now officially vote. I think about that.
Yeah, kids these days with their hippity hoppity.
But one of the biggest complaints, and this has been my entire life, about politics is representation.
Yeah.
Right, and feeling that your demographic is properly heard. So, for the most part, in my 20s and 30s, all of the politicians that I backed were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? It's hard to feel connected with these people, especially when you look at the social implications of someone that is in their 60s. Where were they when they were our age?
Right.
This world was an entirely different place.
And how drastically things change.
Right.
Like, generations used to be decades different. Now we're talking a span of 2 to 3 years, and a child's upbringing can be drastically different. Someone who's just entering school now during the pandemic, I mean, like kindergarten, is going to have a wildly different outlook than kids who started 2 or 3 years ago, who now have to change and reconfigure themselves. And what does that mean for technology adaptation? What does that mean for how people individually learn and grow? And it is just, I don't know, I'll be very interested to see what that means for our own kids. Not just because, they're our kids, and not just because, our wives are teachers, but, I always go back to the Star Trek reference. We talk about how can kids and cadets know so much about quantum physics and things like that in that future era. It's like, well, what's considered common knowledge in basic education starts at a much earlier age, because the rate of growth and the rate of adoption is so much earlier.
Right.
As you were just saying, your 3-year-old knows how to deal with Alexa. I can't get my grandmother to talk to Alexa.
Right.
My grandmother picks up the phone and goes, "Okay, Siri, I need directions to go to the grocery store. But you know what? First, we should go to get my hair done. Did you catch all that? I don't think this Siri thing works."
Right.
And it's not that my grandmother is stupid, and that your daughter is exceptionally smart, though she is. This is just common knowledge at this point.
Right. Yeah, and again, going back to AOC and having someone that actually understands the implications of social media and streaming and technology, being in a position of political power, that's refreshing.
Yeah.
Again, you look at the people that are running the show now, and they were born during the civil rights movement, before the internet. Right. They're like your grandma. They're looking at Siri going, well, why, what is the Siri thing? And you get this nice young fresh blood in there, and they get it. Right. Yeah. They know not to go on Twitter and just make a hot take remark, or if they do, right, if they do, they know what that means, and they know that they're going to get some backlash, and they know that they're going to have a little bit of thick skin.
Well, it's a different environment. Like, I remember taking a law class at one point, and how much law trails behind the reality of a current situation. And that was before really the technology and internet boom. And now you add those factors in, and it's not just that it's trailing new innovations, it's that it's an entirely different world that doesn't have the same sort of conversations involved with it. I don't know. It's
well, and again, these conversations now, they don't have borders anymore.
Right. Well, and that's like, everyone has their personality and their masks that they wear. But our kids now are going to grow up, and their identity is going to be just as woven in a digital environment as it is in a physical environment. And what does that mean, and how do they represent it? And we always tell people, be careful who you talk to on the internet and strangers, and then they order an Uber and have a stranger drive them around.
Right.
But
irony.
at the same time, it's the mistakes kids make on the internet are the same mistakes they could make in the real world. But now the exposure is that much larger. And so everything is...
And it's permanent.
Yeah. But everything is a double-edged sword in life. And every innovation there is a double-edged sword. It's just being smart enough to realize it. And so our job as parents, I think, is not to prohibit use of things, but figure out how do we smartly and safely deal with it. I was reading an article yesterday that out of the 6 smartwatches that are designed specifically for kids, 5 of them have, consistent high security issues with them, because it's very easy for hackers to be able to get into them and turn on cameras and turn on speakers and turn on the, GPS tracking on these smartwatches, and there's no protections from it. But that's just common knowledge now. As far as, I know elementary school kids that are walking around with their own cell phones now. So what does that mean in the big picture? What is privacy, and what type of information are you putting out there? How do you protect yourself?
And that privacy isn't transparent. Like, we literally just had an incident the other day where, we went to the pumpkin patch and you broke out the actual, Canon camera and started snapping photos. And at the same time, your wife was like, oh, Wookiee's not around. Let me take a quick picture with the iPhone, and snapped a few photos and uploaded them to the Google Drive. And the next thing I know, I see them, and there's a GPS track on them.
Yep.
And
she had me actually go back and take out some of the images that had a very transparent, visual of where we were.
Right.
And that's the stuff you could think about. But when you think about what's embedded in the data of all of that,
and this is out of the box. When you take out an iPhone and take a picture, it tags a GPS location on it. It doesn't tell you it's doing it. If you don't know that this exists, Apple's not going to tell you to turn it off.
Yeah, because they want that information.
Right.
That's more valuable to them than the fee of the actual iPhone itself.
Right. Like, almost everything you have now, security-wise, is opt-out, not opt-in. So you have to be aware of that kind of stuff. And again, we're not necessarily hiding from anyone. We operate off of our online names here. Just, again, doxing and swatting and online and physical harassment is a reality that we both face. And at the same time, doing what we do.
We're talking about factors that are a little more personal because we can hide some of that information.
Right.
And because that we feel that the information we share is more valuable.
Yeah.
Because we can talk a little more openly about it. But, I can't.
The last thing I need right now is someone watching this that disagrees with one of my opinions, then now turning and using the information that I have available on the internet, and then coming and attacking my children.
Exactly.
Or attacking my house, or attacking my family. That's the last thing I want. So we take the precautions we can.
Yeah.
But this is something that, when my kids eventually get a cell phone, we have to have that conversation.
Your kids are 3 and 2 now. How different is the world going to be by the time they're 6? Not 12, 13, not teenagers, not 6. We'll have gone through a global pandemic that will have, in some capacity, rewritten our society and how we operate. And how we are seen in the global environment. And what that means in the big picture, who knows? We're still dealing with people nowadays that think the earth is flat. How is all of this going to come to a head together at the same time? And how are we as, old people, especially you, Grandpa, going to be able to keep up with all this?
Shut it.
I don't know. I just work here. Yeah.
There's a reason I'm going gray in my 40s.
Hey, I'm going gray in my 30s. Although I didn't start going gray until I met my wife, so I don't know what that says.
Same. I think we found the common denominator here.
Right? But you've known your wife for 16 plus years now.
Oh, jeez. That's, yeah, when I think back on that, it's just, where does the time go?
Right. So, what else we got? We're coming to the end of November, or of October. We're getting into November, so we're starting to see the hype around all the holiday sales, and finally the release of next generation consoles and all the games that go with it. I, for one, wish I had systems that were capable and money to spend on a lot of these things, but
yeah, I'm absurdly excited to see what this next generation of console brings. Like again, just more and more. Yeah, I guess the NDAs are off on both.
Well, they've been sending it out to YouTubers and streamers.
Yeah.
On some of the consoles to
test out they had, but they were all under strict NDAs, and those literally came off, I believe, in between our last episode and this one. So yeah, you've got outlets like Digital Foundry doing full reviews, and a lot of stuff that was leaked out about the thermal characteristics and the processing power of these consoles is now coming out.
Right.
And, these things are exciting.
Oh yeah.
Right. Just the engineering involved in both next gen consoles. It's amazing.
I don't know. It's still overwhelming to me to a certain degree.
But honestly, like the fact that the existing gen consoles we have are still holding up. Right.
Yeah. I know on. Well, internet, I forgot the principal's name, but at a certain point, the increases in processing speed...
Moore's Law.
Moore's Law.
Yeah.
All of it becomes irrelevant because there's only so much we as humans can actually deal with at any given time. And so now, yeah, we've got all these cool features, but I don't have a monitor or a TV that can run that super high definition, 8K, whatever. Capabilities, and even if I did, I don't think I'd be able to appreciate it.
Oh, especially these old eyes, right?
But I'm interested to see how the environment changes. PlayStation has been doing their new release of how they're doing parties and the required recording of every party shot that's happening. Xbox has been trying to push a lot more of the cross capabilities between the PC apps and the consoles themselves, and that's still a little tricky to figure out. And then for every streamer I've been talking to at this point, they're still going back to Discord,
right?
Regardless if they're on a platform or not, just because it's easier. So who knows? We'll see how this environment turns out, but
yeah, that PlayStation implementation of and it's not that they're constantly recording you and that someone in Sony is listening into every conversation, but it's a feature that's been a long time coming. Again, with harassment and whatnot, it's the there's my stammer again. The anonymity of the of online interactions has enabled a lot of bad behavior.
Yeah.
So with Sony, implementing this recording, it now gives its player base a way of policing themselves.
When I think on a bigger picture, though, the last couple years, especially the last 2 to 3 years, I would say, the anonymity of people online has started, fading into people being held accountable,
right,
in general, and being people being held accountable by their peers, not necessarily by a corporate or government agency. And so when you're suddenly in the game of real time exposing people
Mhm.
that are a threat or harassing, or the flip side of that, of course, is real time doxing.
Right.
But you're suddenly in an environment where you can't hide behind a mask unless you're pretty damn good.
Right.
In which case, someone else who's pretty damn good will most likely figure out how to get to you.
Mhm.
It's now people have consequences, and that's where I always find it amusing. What I have my right to free speech. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't mean you don't have you're not protected against the consequences of your actions.
Exactly.
The right to free speech means the government can't take away your cannot jail you, cannot do anything against you because of what you speak, and especially the media. The media can't be harassed for doing their job correctly. But that doesn't mean that if you're an asshole, your company will not fire you because they don't want to be associated with that kind of behavior. Sorry, that's possible. And just because it's online doesn't mean you're protected from it. There are real consequences now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take that into the gaming space, and suddenly we're seeing a much different ballgame. People want to be involved in something that they can be a part of, and not just because it's inflammatory, and not just because it's, immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Jackass lasted for a while on television, but even that kind of grew old. Again, we'll see how this all works with people growing up.
But yeah, I'm very happy, as much as it's been controversial, that PlayStation has implemented this feature. Again, it's a path to accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Behave yourselves,
Right.
Don't be a dick. It can't be said enough. In all forms of communication, in all forms of social interaction, don't be a dick, right?
Well,
don't be a dick to your waitress. Don't be a dick to...
it's really funny.
Yeah, don't be a dick to the guy you're arresting. Don't be a dick to the guy arresting you.
Right. Well, and it's
like,
it goes beyond that, because I'm thinking there was a long time, there still is, those millennials are so entitled, blah blah blah. But the traits that millennials picked up that they were being told that they are entitled was learned from somewhere.
Right.
And the things their parents taught them was learned from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So as a society, like, all these things happen. The worst offenders of all these things on social media are our parents, in many cases, not ours specifically, but our parents' generation. And it's because they don't comprehend that, they're not just talking to their friend, they're posting it publicly.
Right.
Who was it who, kept liking stuff on, porn sites, and it kept showing up on Facebook?
Oh, my grandfather.
Yeah, there you go.
He didn't understand that little thumbs up wasn't just for himself. That,
right.
Yeah, I do like this. Click. He didn't realize that it was sending it out to the entire family, that he was a big fan of naked yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And good for him.
Yeah, I mean, props to him. But, it's things like that, oh, you think you could, you can get away with it. And you're, well, why did you think you could get away with it? Because you could.
Mm-hmm.
And now suddenly that accountability is there. The people freaking out about cancel culture now. Cancel culture is bullshit. I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but before, if someone didn't like you, the corporations could cancel you because they had the money and the power. Now it's everyone who has a platform, which is everyone at this point, can say, nah, let's not deal business with them because of XYZ. And so corporations get hurt. So there's the people that were in power who had the authority to be able to do that are sort of like, well, I don't like this anymore because their actions are being held accountable. Oh my goodness.
And it's something that I'm actually personally having to deal with now with my other ventures. We're starting a program where we're going to have people representing what we do.
This is Guardians.
Yeah. Our ambassador program.
Ambassador. Why don't you actually talk about that a little?
But we've had applicants come in, and say they want to be part of the team, and now we have to go and look at this, and we can just say, oh, look, hey, they have X amount of followers on Twitch.
Right.
That's a good metric. We're fine with that. They can represent us, and say that that's enough. But in reality, what I have to do now is every time someone applies, I have to not only look at their most recent stream, but I've got to go back and look at their VODs and look at their social media accounts and look at their interactions online
Mm-hmm.
and see that if, see if there's something in their past or see if there's something in their nature that I have to be concerned with them now representing our quote unquote brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and everything's a brand, even if
Mhm.
it's the individual, and so people are going to make mistakes. But there's a difference between inherently being an awful person and then trying to hide it,
Right.
and making a mistake and growing from it.
Mhm.
And that's something that I think the internet is starting to come around to.
Right.
And that gives me hope because, like all human beings, we've all made mistakes, but I've, in my case at least, I've stepped up, I've learned from my mistakes, and I seek to grow and create better with it.
Mhm.
And in a lot of cases, though, it turns into well, I didn't do anything, it was that person's fault.
Right.
I take full responsibility, but China's the ones that screwed up. No political comment there. Sorry.
But that's the reality again.
But I mean that
when
statement right there represents so much of our society in general.
Yeah. Once I slap a logo on it, once I slap my seal of approval on that brand,
Mm-hmm.
I'm now at the mercy of what they do with it.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not something I can just blindly say, okay, here, go ahead, put that on, and we're just gonna let you run. It's now something we have to actively monitor and, again, monitor the past and then going forward.
Well, and I think
the onus
redemption is the term that people come from because it's a fall, but I think it's more, learning and self-retrospective in a lot of cases for some of these people. I think that is a huge, huge, huge component of growth that a lot of people just need to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a level of maturity that, regardless of age bracket, most people don't deal with because it requires too much effort to look and not blame others for your mistakes.
Right.
It requires, the ability to learn from your mistakes and others' mistakes. So I'm hoping that introspection is something I can teach my girl.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever our number 2 baby will eventually be. This is not a revelation. We're not expecting it.
Yes.
Revelation.
No, we're not going to go. We're not going to go set California on fire.
Right. There will be no none of that because we're not expecting at the moment. But Mama Bear and I are planning on a second kid eventually. But regardless of all that, I want most of education and life thus far, growing up for us, and I would say for our parents' generation and possibly the generation before that, has been how do you learn information, regurgitate it, and then fit into a job where you are part of a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what a lot of people are realizing now is it takes more than that. It takes the ability to, how do I figure things out for myself? How do I, grow from this experience? Oh, here's something new. What do I do with it? Because you don't have the safety net of a job that'll take you from your 20s through retirement
Right.
anymore. If you've got a job for a couple of years and are able to do something with that, you are far luckier than most people in their 20s and 30s this time around.
Yeah.
And I think with technology, we're going to see even faster, more rapid change from there.
Yeah, and I say this a lot to a bunch of my coworkers that are in their early to late 20s and even early 30s. They don't understand that in our particular industry, I've had the same job for almost 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's a rarity, and it can all go away like that.
Yeah, and because of the nature of your job, it's not like that skill set immediately pops over to something else.
Right.
So it's not like it's a guarantee. Like you're a accountant who, I'm not an accountant here anymore. I'm moving over to this place that has it. You have a very specific skill set for, aerospace.
Mm-hmm.
That if aerospace wasn't an option, yeah, you'd have testing and adjustment capabilities. You'd have the management and working with the QA stuff and that sort of thing, but you can't necessarily move into software QA.
Right. Yeah, part of how I got the job where I'm at now was having that analytical mindset of being able to look at data and translate data. I had no aerospace experience coming into this, but it's testing, right? It's a process. You read a instruction set, you follow those parameters, you make sure what you're working on operates within those parameters. That's a very generic skill set on a very specific item.
Right.
So there are skills that I can take out of that. It's just it's a way of packaging it.
Yeah, and we're in a world now where the ability to walk up to a business and have a conversation with someone that has the gatekeeper of some computer that's reading your resume in between and things like that. But at the end of the day, it has to come down to, establishing your brand. And part of that's the digital exposure. Part of that is how you interact with a community. Now, a bit more digitally than just face-to-face. The best opportunity that I still have, I think, for a job is because I indirectly worked with someone and we had an amazing conversation and just worked out well. And so they're continuously trying to figure things out for how their business is going to be able to grow and keeping me in mind for things. But had I not had that, 3 degrees of Kevin Bacon, whatever, with them, and had I not had a amazing conversation, I don't think that interest would have been there. It would have just been a number on a board, and it wouldn't have been a human face behind it. And I think that again is where we have to remind each other that anonymity won't. They protect you, but at the end of the day, it's you as an individual that will actually get you farther. That's why authenticity is so huge. That's why we do this podcast and we talk as openly as we can about things.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. So what else we got?
I think we're okay.
I think we're okay also. We're about 59 minutes in. I'd say it's probably about 45 minutes once we cut out all the extra stuff in there. And it's a good place. All right. Well, on that note, I'm ChewDada.
I'm Nate Fu.
You can find us all, as I said earlier, at debuffdads.com/links.
Yep.
And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining.